Hi, I'm Jem.
And I'm Victoria.
And this is
The Criminal Crack.
Happy 2026.
What? I've been writing 2025 on everything.
That's because you're a dork.
I'm a dork, am I?
Happy New Year's.
Happy Noodle Beer.
How are we all? Are we good?
I hope so.
So do I.
What have you been up to?
Well, unlike you, because I know you went down south for the ball to drop and had a really great time, I just was stuck in my house for like 2 weeks because of the goddamn snow.
I did. I went on a little magical mystery tour of the UK, which was mucho fun.
How was the balls
Oh,
drop? Is it balls dropping?
The ball dropping is in New York, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, but it's a thing for the countdown, isn't it?
The final countdown.
That's in my head too.
I don't know, but it was. Yeah, I had a good time.
Awesome. You
very,
did
very,
have a smile
very
on
good
your
time.
face when you came back because you got through the weather without getting stopped.
Somehow. Oh, the snow on the way back. Wow. That was...
Redonkulous.
It was... I possibly should have stayed out of Scotland.
Or not left Scotland.
Yeah. No. No.
You had to go to the spa.
The spa was amazing. No, it's all good.
Well,
It's
that's
all
good. I had 2 weeks off work, which was nice, which was really nice. And then I had an extra week off because I couldn't get out of the house. 12 inches of snow is no laughing matter.
You can't complain at 12 inches, though.
You can. Smarts a bit if you fall in it.
Like you did this morning. Oh, that was just on ice,
thanks
wasn't
for
it?
That.
Bambi on ice.
Yeah, it was near where I found the frying pan, and there was snow, there was visible ice, and then there was a black bit, and I thought, I'll stand on the black bit. And then when I was on it, I thought, oh, it was a shiny black bit as I looked up at the sky. But it was a nice
Like little
walk,
bluebirds tweeting around your head.
Yeah, they're still there.
Feather actually just landed on my nose when I said, that is weird.
Because you're sitting next to a duck.
Ah.
So yeah, not really done that much. Had lovely time with family, a bit too much drink on Boxing Day. Fun was had.
Yeah, I didn't overly drink or anything. It's a shame. I'm in the mood to go out and really let my hair down. You know, I really want to go out and dance and just...
Well, you said that to me a year ago.
I know,
and so
we still
out we
haven't
went.
been.
No, out we went.
Did we?
Yeah, and you and Michaela wanted to come home at like 10 o'clock at night and then changed your mind when we were getting picked up.
That's because I peaked too soon and drank too much. Because somebody took me to Spoons and people were ordering stupid amounts of drinks.
You chose to go to Spoons.
Did I?
Yeah, I wanted to go to Joanna's. It was a bit early at that point.
I still need to dance. I need to dance.
So, you're back at work.
I am back at work with a massive thud. Yep, straight. Normally, January is slightly more quiet. Not this time. So,
Oh.
yeah, lots of referrals coming in. Lots of people getting support. So that's a
That's
good thing.
good.
Yeah.
That is
busy,
good.
busy.
I feel like I might have to start making up what I'm doing just so that I sound more interesting. I've got a new crochet project on the go, making a cardigan.
I think you have been doing other things as well, but I can't quite remember. I mean, you did something huge yesterday.
Oh, well, it was... Yeah, I did. I went to a court case with a friend yesterday. I'm not going to go into it, but went to a court case with a friend yesterday.
That support from you would have meant the world to her, so...
I hope so.
Yeah.
Did that. My son turned 13. Showed him the Kevin and Perry, well, the Harry Enfield video when Kevin is 12 and then changes to 13, and he just didn't get it. So my son will sleep, or did sleep, every day till like 12 o'clock. Even on his birthday, he didn't want to get up before 10. And we thought, like, he might turn into this horrible teenager. He's gone the other way, which is marvellous. He's getting up at 9. He got up at 9 the day after his birthday, did some homework.
Oh my
because
goodness.
They were on remote learning because of the weather. And then he built some Lego, and he did something else, but I can't remember what it was. But I was just like, why are you up at 9 in the morning?
He's motivated. That's good.
Well, we'll see how long it lasts. I wasn't up.
Excellent.
Busy old time. Before we dive into today's case, I want you all to know that I have a lot of questions about this case, and I think you'll all have the same questions. They're really important. I've been thinking about them at length, but I don't have the answers for most of them. But I'd really like to know, like Victoria, I'd really like to know your thoughts, and I'd really like to know what our listeners think as well.
I just had sort of Morgan Freeman narrative in my head going, you would not like to know her thoughts.
Narrative. Narration. Anyway, when I say that, I'm just going to clarify, this is not for the audience, this is not for you guys, this is for Victoria. Thoughts on the case.
Thank you.
Okay? I've tried to be unbiased in this case, but I'm going to share what I think are possibilities of what's happened. I'm not going to make any wild accusations or make life difficult for anybody involved.
Will they be your theories, or are they theories that are out there?
There are theories that are out there that I agree with.
Okay.
But I came to, before I read, that other people had the same theories. I think it's really important to get this story out there in the hope that, as usual, someone listening might realise they've got valuable information and to keep this case in the public eye because it's not solved.
Okay.
We're
beginning the year with an unsolved mystery.
We started season 1 with an unsolved,
We did.
so I thought
We did.
season 2.
And we did promise that we would update you on any progress, but we have heard none, unfortunately.
None at the moment. I have seen in the news, I should have written down the name of the case, not a case that we've covered, but another missing persons case in the UK. They're going to be doing underwater radar for an area that they think this person might be, but they can't do it till later on in the year. I will get more details and I'll put them up on the page.
Okay, yeah.
I thought that's really promising. That's interesting. So there's various references for this episode, which you'll find in our episode description wherever you're listening. But I'm also going to be talking about information that came from a documentary, but I'm not going to give you the name until later on in the episode.
Okay, Gemma. Are you ready to tell me the crack?
I am ready to get cracking. On April the 22nd, 1992, an article with the headline, "The Man Who Wanted to Fly," appeared in an issue of the Northern Echo, which is a regional newspaper that covers County Durham and, you might know this, is it Teeside or Tayside? Teeside.
Teeside.
Teeside, it is Teeside.
I think so.
Okay. Now, spoiler alert, again, mainly for Victoria. The flying in this headline was figurative, not literal.
Oh, okay. What a shame.
She's all disappointed now. The piece in the paper was based on a local man who had overcome barriers and earned great success working with a national charity called Rathbone Training and Employment Services. I'm just going to call them Rathbone going forward. After seeking out support from the branch local to him in Redcar. You ever been to Redcar?
No. Have I?
I've heard of it. It's down like Middlesbrough way.
I think I've driven through, probably.
I've definitely, they probably have a football team or
I
something.
mean, I've done the length of this country so many times.
You have.
Yeah.
You seem to enjoy it. I don't know why I said it like that.
I don't know.
Anyway, so up until December 2024, Rathbone was a registered charity committed to supporting those living in Britain with learning and or physical disabilities to access training and employment opportunities. It was similar to what I did, or we did, when I worked at, not we, you, me, myself and my colleagues at WorkTrack did. So we would help people get into employment, but we worked mainly with people who were long-term unemployed, but we helped everybody.
Okay.
So in 1992, where today's case begins, the charity's aim was to help as many of the 10 million people who met these criteria in the UK at the time. In the article, the manager of the Redcar branch's programme manager at the time, Dr. Alan Jackson, proudly shared that Rathbone would work with anyone who fit these parameters, no matter the level of their abilities. He clearly delighted in telling the Northern Echo that they had successfully supported many people that other training providers had struggled with, which is pretty cool.
That is good, yeah. Open door.
Yeah. Didn't turn anybody away and would work with them as long as they needed, basically. With centres across England, Scotland and Wales, Rathbone offered their services to users aged 18 to 50. This included helping clients, or trainees they also called them, to overcome or manage different aspects of their disabilities, to attain and boost employability and social skills. They would aid in achieving recognised qualifications, giving them something to show potential employers that they could demonstrate their capability to work. So basically, everybody that went in there would come away with something, some sort of change.
And it's that practical support that is vital to people.
Yeah, I mean, you tell somebody to write a CV or hand a CV in, and that for some, I mean, I used to do it as a job, but for some people you think, oh my God, like, where do I start? What do I put in? And this is the work that they did,
The
which
amount
again
of
was
people that
similar
are
to WorkTrack.
overwhelmed by filling out forms.
Oh,
and I'm one of those people.
Me too.
So
I can do it for other people.
funny that, isn't it?
I think it's because I know how to tell them what information is important and what's not. But with your own life, you want to give your best. You want to put everything in, don't you, that you've done that's been brilliant.
Yeah.
While we're now living in a world that is slightly more accepting and understanding of those with disabilities, it wasn't always the case, and Rathbone really did their best to help pave the way to enhance people's lives by giving them more opportunities to work. One of the qualifications that Rathbone allowed trainees to work on achieving, including the man featured in the article, was an NVQ, which for those not in the UK is shorthand for the National Vocational Qualification. I couldn't find a definitive answer for how many subjects could be studied in 1992, but now there's more than 1,000.
Wow, is there?
Yep. And it's advised that when somebody picks one, it's best if trainees had an idea of what they'd like to do in the future, so that it was relevant.
Oh yeah, but that's easier said than done, isn't it?
It is, but it is essential.
But
you
I
don't
wanted
want
to be a rock star. There was no help for me.
There's still no help for Victoria. And Rathbone, they would sit with people and offer guidance on finding the best qualification for them.
Yeah.
The main advantage of the MVQ system is that although the courses themselves are comprised of both written and practical work, trainees do not have to sit any kind of formal exam, which for some people with disabilities provides an educational lifeline that mainstream qualifications didn't provide in the 1990s. Instead, trainees are expected to build up a portfolio of evidence which clearly supports that they understand what is required of them while being assessed by their trainers throughout the full period of study. This allows the trainers to observe their competence and gives the trainees a certificate to prove it. While I won't go into any more details about the qualification itself, I have to share that usually an MVQ takes about 10 months to a year to complete. When the Redcar branch of Rathbone worked with the main success story in the article, they were facing many challenges of their own. Funds were running extremely low, the premises were in a terrible state of disrepair, and they were close to being closed down. In fact, the branch made up of 5 full-time and part-time and voluntary staff knew that by March 1991 they'd probably be closed. They didn't have 10 months to a year, but that didn't stop them getting the focus of today's case and 24 other trainees through MVQs in both business administration and retail skills in just 5 months.
Wow.
Which is not only incredible for the trainees and trainers, but the centre as a whole, as it gave them time to help more people going forward. Unfortunately, in December 2024, the Rathbone charity ceased operations due to lack of funding. However, there do appear to be a few standalone businesses with the same name that offer similar services online, which is quite nice to see. So I don't know if the staff took them over or there's one in Fife.
It's just one of those things, isn't it, when it's something that's dependent on funds and fundraising, like Restitute is.
Yeah.
It's a vital service. It shouldn't be that way, but
I know, I agree. And they're vital services, like those 10 million disabled people.
Exactly.
That figure's
it's
gone up, not down.
to them.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Working with Rathbone had been more than incredible for 22-year-old local man Stephen Clark when he found out that he had been entered into a competition to become the Trainee Achiever of the Year, and he won it. Beating 80 other contenders from across the nation to the title, he received a cash prize of £1,000, which he intended to enjoy by taking a holiday to Mallorca in 1992. Stephen was around 21 or 22 years old when he first walked into his local branch of Rathbone Training Employment Services in Redcar, just 7 miles from the home he shared with his parents Doris and Charles Clark in Marske by the Sea. I'm going to call it, the way it's pronounced is more mask, because English people tend to pronounce their R slightly different to we do because we roll them here. Marske. So I'm just going to call it Marske going forward. I feel a bit, what's the word?
Special?
No! I feel a bit, not nervous, but like, oh my God, am I saying it right? Please obviously tell me if I am. But
see, these people that worry about how to say place names, it's just...
Belinda Loch.
Cragalaki.
Stephen had arrived there hoping that staff would be able to help him secure employment. He was probably hoping for a second-time lucky experience, having already had a negative experience at a local job club. He felt discouraged when he took himself into one of the nation's many locations hosting this government scheme, tasked to help the long-term unemployed get jobs. For Stephen, they were no help, and he believes this was because he had both learning and physical disabilities. Remember that although this was the early 90s, it was still a time where disabilities weren't well understood or accepted, and many employers only saw barriers and not a real person. It's for this reason that I'm going to start by telling you just who Stephen was. You will probably have noticed that I said was. Well, that's because, and I'm really sad to say this, despite all the achievements that Stephen Clark earned and all the difficulties he had overcome in his lifetime, just 8 short months after he achieved his MVQ in business administration and became the winner of the Rathbone Trainee of the Year, Stephen Clark disappeared. And 33 years later, we still have no idea what actually happened to him.
Oh, you said it was unsolved, didn't you? Oh.
I think you'll recognise this case when we get further into it.
Okay.
So my plan for the episode is to take you through what we know about who Stephen was as a person, his disappearance, the subsequent police investigation, arrests and theories, and my feelings and opinions on the ITV documentary based on the case, but probably not in that order, because you know what I'm like. Again, I'm not telling you the name of the documentary just now, but it's because I think it will lead everybody to think in a certain way, and I want you to be able to decide for yourself. Stephen was born in 1969 in Colchester in Essex to parents Doris and Charles Clark, and it's fair to say there isn't really much information about any of them online. I can tell you that this small family of 3 moved a whopping 331 miles from Colchester to the small village of Kirkliston in the west of Edinburgh when Stephen was still in early infancy, although I don't know exactly when, and actually, rather than being part of the city of Edinburgh at that time, Kirkliston may have actually been considered to be in West Lothian. Because they change the bloody barriers of everything all the time. Nearly every case I do, there's changes.
But how? Yeah.
It's just, I think it's to do with councils.
Funding, probably. Money.
No, not funding. It's,
No?
No, it's just political changes. We'll just go with that, okay?
Yeah.
When they moved, Stephen was a happy little blonde-haired boy who, like most boys his age, was into everything and developing well until a tragic accident changed everything. One day, between the ages of 2 and 3, sources differ, Doris headed out of the family home to go and do some shopping, leaving Stephen behind. Walking away from her house, she was suddenly aware of a commotion behind her. Turning around, she was met with the awful sight of a lorry in the street and a blonde youngster on the road.
Oh, no.
Running towards the scene, she saw it was her little boy, Stephen. He must have heard her leave, then slipped out of the door behind her to follow her. For a month, wee Stephen lay in a coma in hospital while his parents sat with him. Sadly, when he woke up, although it was great that he did, they found he was never going to be the same again, having sustained severe damage to his left arm and left leg. While he would go on to be able to walk, it would forever be with a pronounced limp in the affected leg, and his arm was virtually of no use at all. He would hold it up. He also had a speech defect following the accident, which was possibly due to head injuries. Now, this was life-changing for the whole family, and at some point they journeyed around 349 miles back down south to live in Kimbolton, Cambridgeshire. It was here that he began his school career before the Clarks upped sticks again, this time much further afield to South Africa, where Stephen would go on to continue his education at the Muriel Brand School. This rather special school is based in a mining town called Brakpan in South Africa. At the time of this case, Brakpan would have been considered part of the Transvaal province of the country. However, following the country being reorganised in 1994, it is now in Gauteng. See? Changing barriers everywhere. The Muriel Brand School is specifically for youngsters from the age of 3 years old who have physical and or learning difficulties. And though it follows the same curriculum as mainstream schools in the country, the way they teach is different and is tailored to the child's specific needs. And each child is taught fully in either Afrikaans or English.
Oh. So his parents must have found out, they must have been trying to do everything in their power for him, if they're moving him around to try and better education and things like that.
It certainly sounds like it, because on the first move, when he went to Kimbolton, I meant to say he started his academic career there, not academic school. He started school
Education,
there,
yeah.
And there is schools that are similar there, but I don't know it. There's no confirmation that he went to a school that was for kids with disabilities.
Do you know about his parents' employment? Would there have been another reason for the moves?
We're getting there.
Oh, okay.
Which I had to dig to find, and it's in the documentary as well, but I did have to dig to find. Now, Stephen Clark was taught in Afrikaans, which I find really, really odd, and I couldn't find a reason for it. But if you remember, he was a small boy who was dealing with physical and learning difficulties. He was in an English-speaking house. He was then getting taught full-time in Afrikaans. Doesn't make sense to me. It's been said that his speech development was made more difficult. No shit, Sherlock.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his speech impediment worsened because of this.
Oh.
Now,
Yeah, how strange. Maybe it was just it's all that they could facilitate at the...
No, it wasn't.
Not if they had...
There was the choice.
That's really strange.
It is odd, and there's no answer to it. Now, I'm going to come back to the Muriel Brand School, and I want you to remind me at the end of this episode, as I've got something really funny to share that happened, because I had to contact them when I was doing the research about something really, really funny. I don't know if they found it funny, but I find it really funny, and I want to tell you, but I don't want to do it in the story.
Okay.
Stephen and his parents spent 10 years living in South Africa, joined at some point by a younger sibling called Victoria.
That's my name.
That's your name. I knew you'd like that. Before they were on the move again. This time they relocated back to England in the town of Guildford in West Surrey. You'll have been there.
Probably.
I just assume you've been everywhere.
Thanks.
So I'm not entirely sure why the family moved around so much. I thought it was maybe due to either Doris or Charles's work. However, all I've been able to find out about their occupations, they're in their 80s now, all I've found is they were both serving police officers at some point before 1992. Doris was in the force for 8 years and Charles for 6. That is literally it, because I thought maybe it's forces and it's like some sort of special ops, and you know, like, because South Africa's not a posting you ever hear somebody getting.
Could it have been military police?
No mention at all, so I can't say yes or no. I just find it bonkers. I sort of feel it, so...
But even military police, in the time that they went, there wouldn't have been
They weren't there long
military
enough.
in South Africa anyway, was there?
Oh, I don't know.
Not British military.
But you usually get postings for a certain amount of time, and they didn't seem to stay. But then again, I don't have the time. I don't know how many years they spent anywhere. The only other thing that I could think... No, I didn't have an only other thing. There was something... You said something there, and I was going to... You said about serving police officer... I'll come back to it, because I had a thought when you said something that triggered a thought
What about
there.
military police?
No.
Aww.
Anyway, the final move that they would... Oh, that's what it was. So when I had Cordelia, obviously everything was fine to begin with, but as most listeners know, Cordelia and I both have autism. I've got ADHD, she probably has that as well. But when she was 15 months old, that's when we started noticing traits. And for me, being close to family was important. And it just seems they're moving up and down the country and then to a completely different country. So wouldn't you want more support with a child who's physically and has...
You'd want
It's
more
weird.
stability, wouldn't you, and routine. And it seems an odd thing to do unless they really were seeking... like the best circumstance for him and being maybe told by somebody there's this really good school here, or I
find it bizarre.
We can speculate all day.
We can. Anyway, the final move they would make as a family was in the summer of 1991 when they arrived in Marsk, and where, if you remember, Stephen found Rathbone and did begin to thrive.
I'm glad he found them before whatever happened.
I can't even tell you what happened. This is a confusing one. It's a mystery. So far, you know where and when Stephen was born, his history of moving around with his family, that he was the eldest child of Doris and Charles and was a big brother. I've told you about the disabilities and the challenges he faced, but you also need to know that he was incredibly hard-working and goal-orientated, which you've probably got so far, because he managed to do an MVQ in 5 months. But there's more. In December 1992, Stephen was 23 years old and was known, at least by sight, by many in the area of Marsk, which, to orientate you, is a small village in the northeast of England between Redcar and Saltburn by the sea, which I'm going to be calling just Saltburn from going on because it features. Although he was a blondie as a youngster, by the time he was an adult, he had a thick mass of dark brown hair and blue eyes that to me looked really friendly. He was 6'3" and wore glasses, though not all the time. His tall frame suited him, and I would say he was sort of a medium build. He wasn't big, he wasn't slim, he was sort of in the middle, and he wore his size really well. His friends and family, including his little sister, have shared that he was a lovely guy with a great sense of humour, though Victoria also shared that he could be a bit grippet or mean with money. Grippet's a Scottish word for mean. I thought I'd share that. A bit tight with money. And if someone else was paying, then that was just totally fine by him.
Skinflint.
Yeah, a little bit. He had a lot to talk about and lots of hobbies that kept him busy, such as swimming, which he was apparently really good at. And he loved watching football. He was a lifelong fan of Arsenal and would watch his beloved Gunners whenever he could.
Sorry.
What?
I was going to say, up the arse. That's what they used to say, isn't it?
That's staying in.
Oh, God.
But also attended Middlesbrough matches too with his dad every now and again. As well as being a bit of an IT and computer buff, he was a real music lover. Stephen not only enjoyed listening to it, but playing it too. His instrument of choice, had to be a difficult one to pronounce, was the baritone euphonium.
Okay. Wow, okay.
Any idea what that is?
Yes.
Go on then, hit me.
Baritone euphonium.
You can't just
Is it
repeat
a
it.
brass instrument?
It is a brass instrument.
I thought it was. Is it a windy instrument?
It is a windy instrument.
Yeah, I've kind of got a picture in my head of what it is. And it goes brr.
Or I had to look it up, and it's a big beast of a brass instrument. Though when I was first writing it, I was looking at pictures. I thought it was a tiny little tiddly one, and then I looked at people it said they were using marching bands, and I looked and I'm like, oh God, okay.
You had to find one to scale. You needed a banana for scale.
I needed a banana for scale because I would have been going, and it was really little.
If
and
you
could put it in
share
your
a
bag.
picture of that, you have to put a banana in for scale.
I'm not going to go and find one to take a picture with.
Why?
You can add one because, listeners, not viewers, maybe start looking at our episode art a little bit closer, because somebody has admitted to putting in Easter eggs that I didn't know were bloody there.
Shh, don't tell. It's only for the secrets.
It's only for the secrets.
I don't know what I'm talking
mean?
about. I don't know.
So he played one of them. I've put here, I do recognise from seeing in marching bands, it's one of the big curly ones with a funnel at the end, which I think is quite a good description. And when played correctly, it emits a beautiful warm sound, nothing like the sounds that Victoria and I just did for you.
I think somebody took the idea of a conch, a beach conch, and went, I'm going to make this bigger and more brassy and go, woo.
But it had keys.
Yeah.
It had toodaloots on it.
You've got to be able to have toodaloots.
Since returning to the UK from South Africa, Stephen found he had a lot more freedom in life than the previous 10 years, where it said he found it really quite restrictive. He even had a job for some time in the Leonard Cheshire home, which locals also known as Marske Hall, but I don't know what he did there. In the weeks before December 28th, 1992, he had begun to attend the local pub, the Ship Inn, with his father, and had made some friends of his own, including a young lady who was his girlfriend for a short time, around a week to 10 days. All I can tell you about her is she was around the same age as Stephen and seemed lovely according to those who had met her, but by the time he went missing, the relationship seemed to have been over for a little while.
Was she local then?
We've got no idea.
Oh.
There's so much in this case that there's no information online about. So, here we go. It was Monday the 28th of December 1992, the last day of the Christmas bank holiday weekend, that according to his mother, Stephen Clark left his home in Marske for the last time to take a walk along the beach path to nearby Saltburn, leaving sometime after lunch. He was accompanied that day by Doris, who has never been able to recall whether she and Stephen left the home together or if Stephen had marched off ahead of her and leaving her to catch up with him. She also can't seem to remember one thing they talked about as they strolled along. What she is adamant about, though, is that her son was in good spirits and there had been no discord between them. Charles did not join the pair, as he had made a plan to go and watch Middlesbrough FC play at home against Crystal Palace in the Gunners' former home stadium, Ayresome Park.
So his mum went with him but wasn't sure if she walked behind him and
She
can't remember
can't-
anything that they talked about.
She can't remember if they left the home together, like went out the door, like one and then another, or if he had stomped off and she had followed him. And yeah, she just can't recall what they discussed on the walk. I've no information about what time he left that day or if he had seen his family leave the home. Kick-off, though, was at 3 p.m, and it would have taken him approximately 25 minutes to drive there, factoring what I'm told is a good length of time to be in your seat for a 3 p.m. kick-off. I'm guessing he would have wanted to be in his seat for about 10 minutes beforehand.
You've also got to bear in mind that on match day, traffic is heavier as well, so...
Yeah, but I would take that into account because I
okay.
figured he would know that. So I reckon he would have had to have left the home at no later than 2:25. That's Charles, the dad. This leads to one of my first questions when I was looking into the case initially. Did police have proof that Charles ever attended this match? And I assumed it would be checked and that he'd be able to show a ticket stub or something, but as it turns out, his attendance there's never been verified. And I know we've not got to what's happened to Stephen yet, but I just feel like doing it chronologically, bear that in mind.
Yeah.
Now, of course, this doesn't mean he didn't attend the match, but I find it really odd. Charles went to a lot of Middlesbrough matches, and I sort of assumed that there would be more than a few fans doing the same, especially at the team's home ground. So wouldn't it have been an idea for the police to question them about if they'd seen him or not? Because you'd recognise people if you went all the time, wouldn't you? And you'd probably sit around the same seats. Also, aren't there usually press at matches? Were any pictures from that available showing the fans? Had they taken any pictures that day that included the fans? Now, they would have been devastated as they lost to Crystal Palace that day, and if he was there, as he said, then maybe a camera would have caught his face. And I know somebody who's been not caught, but like was at an Aberdeen match. Aberdeen got absolutely humped. And in the paper the next day, he was in the stands with his head like not his head in his hands, but like resting on his chin, just totally fed up. So I know they do take those pictures, and I actually went looking, but I couldn't find anything.
I was going to say, would those matches not have been televised as well?
Don't know.
They probably would have been.
I don't know, but I actually did look. I joined some Middlesbrough Football Club groups to see if I could find photos. I went on eBay to see if I could find programmes, because somebody suggested that, but I can't find any of them. Now, Stephen had been invited to attend this match with Charles, but when his dad told him he'd have to cover the cost of his own ticket, it's alleged he said no, which fits in with the grippedness.
Yeah.
But this makes me wonder, could this invite have been extended to Stephen just before he left for the walk? Could they have had an argument about him having to pay for his own ticket? And is this why? Did Stephen storm out? Was he pissed off? It was a cold winter's day when Doris and Stephen embarked on their walk, and both were wrapped up warm as Stephen cosied up in a navy blue hooded parka jacket over a warm maroon crew neck style jumper. He also wore grey trainers on his feet, not his hands, and a pair of blue denim jeans. Sometimes I write scripts and then afterwards I'm like, why have I said that? They know it's on his feet. Now, Doris estimated that the coastline walk took them around 40 to 45 minutes to complete. And remember, Stephen had quite an obvious limp, so it would have taken slightly longer than it might have taken Doris herself, but they were together. And when they arrived in Saltburn, they headed straight to the public toilets on the town's promenade near to its pier. This is where I think you might recognise this case. It was around 3 p.m. when they arrived outside the toilet block, where Doris remembers seeing two men at the entry with a small girl. As Stephen made his way into the loos, she saw one of the men also go inside while the other one stayed with the child. She just figured this was their system, so there was somebody with the little girl. She noticed that, and then she made her way into the ladies. When she came out, she saw the other man with the child, but no sign of Stephen. She says that she waited for a bit, but then assumed he had headed back home, and she made her way home too. Was that clear?
Yeah, but why would he leave his mum there, even if he was miffed? Bit of a strange thing to do.
And why would she leave him?
Yeah, why would she leave him? Why would he just...
When asked if she had gone into the men's or asked one of the other men to go in and check for Stephen, she's always said that she didn't because he was 23. But he also had physical disabilities. Maybe he was struggling with pulling his trousers up. Maybe he was maybe he'd taken unwell in there. She never even stood outside and shouted in.
He could have slipped on a puddle of wee, you know.
Yeah,
anything,
he could. Anything could have happened. Now, I've said here, it's very odd to me. Yes, he was 23, but surely most people would even shout in at the door something like, "Stephen, I'm done, will you be long?" and wait for an answer at least. And if you watch the documentary, you'll actually see her reply to this question, and I noticed in the immediate aftermath of her response, I noticed something that gave me pause, and it wasn't the only thing. When she replied, the person who asked her gave her a look like he thought the same as me, and then she turned to her husband and was muttering about this being her, quote, story. So he had said, "Did you check to see if Stephen was there?" She said, "No, he was 23 years old. I just left him to it. I just assumed he'd walked home."
But that's rubbish. I mean, if you've gone out with somebody, he could have had the Tommy Tits. He might have just been struggling a bit.
The only time you would leave somebody, I think, is if you'd had an argument.
Yeah, that's really strange.
And you thought, sod it. Like, we've all done it with partners. You've been out and about, there's been, like, words made and you've gone, oh, like, sod it, and you've walked on ahead, you've marched on ahead.
Very odd.
Yeah, and I find her word choice really weird, because wouldn't you have said, "I can only tell you what happened, if I could go back I would change things, I would have done that"? There was nothing like that. She just said, "Well, that's my story, that's my story."
And he was 23, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, very defensive.
Now, despite this account, not one person has ever come forward to say they saw Stephen or his mother in the area that day. Did any of this ever happen? Did they go for the walk? That's the bit that I'm not sure that I believe that happened. I think her story might have just been that, a story. So just pop a pin in all of that for the time being, because we'll come back to it. So Doris left without checking or giving Stephen any more time. When she let herself into her home, she found it empty, and at this point she says she started to worry about where he was. In some sources, it states that she called Charles to come back from the football, which I'm not sure how that would happen in the pre-mobile age, unless she was able to contact the club and have them put a tannoy out for him, you know, to get him to call home. But in the documentary, Charles said he arrived home after the match to find that Stephen wasn't there, and within 10 minutes of being home, he headed back out in his car to Saltburn and started looking for him. He said he made his way to Saltburn and began walking around shouting Stephen's name over and over again. Knowing that the walk between Marske and Saltburn included plenty of open space and a path along cliffs, he was worried that Stephen may have tripped or fallen or gotten stuck somewhere and was waiting for help, or worst case scenario, may have gone over the edge of the path and into the treacherous sea below. Although the time is unable to be confirmed, Charles said he returned home about 6:30, and together he and Doris made a call to Cleveland Police to report him missing. However, this didn't happen as police informed them that they would have to wait 48 hours and then call back. Cue Gemma rant. This really, really angers me because it's, if you don't already know this, the 48 hours thing isn't a legal requirement. It's a myth. It's something that gets said, but it's not. You don't have to stick to that. And in the case of a vulnerable young adult, I'm really appalled that they didn't do anything at the time. So unfortunately...
But I wonder if his parents are involved. I wonder if they downplayed the seriousness of him going missing.
Don't know, because
I can't
the reason we can't get a time on the call is because they can't find anything on records to show that the call was made or not made.
But also, they're saying 6:30.
Yeah.
The football match didn't start till 3?
Yep.
Football match is 90 minutes?
Yep, with a break.
That's not enough time for him to go to Saltburn to search. No. That's
Let me do my
bullhickey.
rant and then we'll come back to it. Unfortunately, when people are told this by police, they assume they have to do as they're told, but you don't. The first 48 hours of someone going missing is critical. That's a critical time. Think about it. When someone goes missing, you want to find evidence and witnesses as soon as you can if you can't find them. And while physical evidence may still be in situ, especially if a third party is involved, they won't have had time to clean that up or move a body or whatever. But also those witnesses, you want them while their memories are fresh. You don't want them days later when they might get confused or if they've decided what they saw wasn't what they saw. And this is today's PSA from Jem. Having a loved one go missing can happen to any one of us at all, and for all it's worth, this is what I would recommend doing. Call the police, make them take a statement, get on social media, share as much information as you know about your loved one's last movements, where they were going, what they were wearing. Get out on the streets where you know they have been with pictures, and if you can make coloured copies of all the details, you know, a picture or two, like all of that, get that all out there so that people can see it. Speak to people you know with local businesses and ask them to share your socials, and if they went missing near them, as get them to check their CCTV footage. You won't be allowed to look at it, but they can, and then they can then put it to the police and say the person was here. Don't sit still.
Can I add as well?
Don't get yourself in any trouble, but make sure that you do something, because nobody else is going to do it.
Having been a missing person, put emphasis on the fact that it's out of character, because
You've been a missing person.
Yeah.
When
I won't go into it, but I've been a missing person, and putting emphasis on how out of character it is helped to kickstart action, basically.
Okay.
So.
Anyway, the Clarks were told to wait 48 hours, and they did. And while I can't say for sure this impacted the entire case, I'd say, given that nothing of any significance happened until nearly 30 years later, that it did. When I say nothing of significance, I mean I couldn't find anything at all about what had befallen poor Stephen Clark at all, and his case was more than stagnant. There'd obviously been an investigation, but nothing much really came from it. And this isn't to say that people didn't have their own theories, some of which I'm guessing you guys already are considering. But just let me get through further investigations and then I'll cover them and all the questions and some of the answers I have before I talk to you about why I believe we need to discuss the ITV documentary.
Her eyes got big.
Yeah, because it angers me.
Oh.
In 2020, the case hit the news again, and when I say it hit hard, and it's not an overestimation. On Tuesday the 15th of September 2020, it was announced that the Cleveland and North Yorkshire Cold Case Unit had not only taken a look at Stephen's case, but 2 people had been arrested in connection with his murder, as this was no longer a missing persons case. And this was huge. For this to happen out of the blue means either some new evidence must have come to their attention, or someone new had taken on the case and had found something no one else had picked up on in the years before.
Or a confession?
That's new evidence.
Okay.
Detective Chief Inspector Sean Page of the Cleveland Police explained that ever since Stephen went missing back in 1992, there have been a lot of questions that still needed to be answered. He went on to say that behind the scenes, the case had been reopened in early 2020, and they had since come to the conclusion that not only had they not found anything that would point to Stephen leaving of his own accord, they also hadn't found anything to support Stephen still being alive. The process of trying to establish if someone is alive or not doesn't really follow a set format per se, but is known as finding proof of life. So basically, rather than trying to find out if someone's deceased, police look to support the theory that they're alive and have left of their own accord. As I said, there's no one way of doing this, and nowadays there are a lot more options that can be utilised than were available in 1992. And even 2020, but the rough concept starts by looking at paper and electronic data for a trail that shows that someone being alive is likely, as well as following up any recent sightings that may be plausible. When all options are followed through, if there's no activity over a certain time period, it can be assumed that there's a valid presumption of death. So in Stephen's case, financial records were likely looked at to see if any cash had been withdrawn or if any debit or credit cards in his name were used, and if so, where. We now know that Stephen had both a current and a savings account when he went missing, and neither have ever been touched. CCTV from cameras in Marsk and Saltburn would also have been trawled through, with officers desperately hoping for even a glance of tall, dark-haired man dressed for the cold weather with a visible limp as he walked and one hand held up unused, but there was nothing. Nowadays, phone data and mobile cell towers are also used to trace locations that people have last been in, but obviously this wasn't available for Stephen and he didn't have a mobile.
And with youngsters, they'll, not just youngsters actually, but with a lot of people, they'll, if they are regular social media users
they check
and stuff,
that as well.
they'll check the frequency of how many times they
It's
get
not
logging
even
on
just
and
that.
stuff,
They
so-
also look to see if there is posts, if they are the same type of posts as what had previously been
same
put up.
language and stuff. And
Once the data has been thoroughly investigated and nothing found, police may then approach the UK Missing Persons Unit and look for any unidentified bodies or remains that could match the identity of their victim. So after this bombshell, that it was now a murder case and they had an arrest, well, 2 arrests, Page appealed to people to think back to the 28th of December 1992 and come forward with anything that they thought would help the case, no matter how small, believing that witnesses and their relationship to Stephen were likely the key to solving the mystery of this small town.
It's in the UK, just to give you the feel, it's a quiet time of year. Although there's parties and things because of Christmas and New Year, being outdoors in that time of year in the cold, you notice people.
Yeah, you do.
The things are more still, and so you do notice people. And so for nobody to have seen them I find that really strange.
It's bonkers. Then, when he addressed the arrest, Page, who refused to share names, made it clear that this was a significant step forward in the case, but any help from the community was welcome. 2 days later, more details came out when police told the public that the reason the case had been reassigned, reopened and arrests made was due to what they believe was a credible tip that came 7 years after Stephen vanished into what seemed like thin air. During September 1999, that's when the tip came in. The tip came in the form of a handwritten letter. I've no idea why it took so long for this tip to suddenly seem important in 2020 when it didn't back in 99. But whatever the reason, the Cleveland and North Yorkshire cold case team obviously thought otherwise when they reopened the case. Weirdly, this was all they would say at the time. They were incredibly cagey about what the letter contained, saying only that it had been assessed and recorded as evidence back then and had been sent anonymously. That was it. There was nothing else. They said about a letter and that was it. Following this information, on the 22nd of September, those in the community became aware of searches being done, which brought a feeling of excitement and hope that Stephen or his fate would finally be found. Forensic specialists were meticulously and slowly performing their duties on specific areas of land in the coastal town of Marsk and Saltburn. This was 2020. The community was buzzing, which is exactly what the investigating team would have wanted. People talking and perhaps remembering things they might not have before. And it turns out that this did get people thinking. Now, first up, I'm going to tell you about 2 sightings which I couldn't find much information about, but were shown in the documentary, and neither of these sightings were retold by the people involved in the show, but this is what was said, and we also don't know when these came in. This could have been way before 2020. So, we have Joyce, who was the wife, possibly widow, of a man called Stan Camish, Camaish, who was a friend of the Clarks. Joyce said that on the day of Stephen's disappearance, she'd been in town shopping with Stan, and they'd gone off to do their own thing for a little bit. When Stan rejoined her, he asked her if she'd seen who he had been chatting to at the bus stop. She hadn't, so he explained that it had been Stephen in a blue parka jacket. Now, this was allegedly after Stephen is believed to have vanished, and honestly, it's weird. I don't know why somebody would go back to their partner and say they'd seen somebody in those words, because he literally said, "Did you see who it was I was talking to over at the bus stop?" And when she said no, he was like, "Oh, it was Stephen Clark. He was wearing this." It's pretty clunky, and in my opinion, sounds like what someone would say to try and place someone after the fact.
You get these people, they try and make themselves important in a case because it's a big case and it's almost...
He didn't know it was a case.
Oh, right.
It wasn't really a case yet.
Oh, I don't know then.
Now, if that was true, though, it would mean that he was nowhere near Saltburn or Musk, because this actually happened, they saw him apparently in Redcar.
Oh, right. Okay.
That should be in there. I don't know why it's not. Now, I'm not saying that Stan was involved in Stephen's disappearance, because I don't think that, but I do find it odd.
Was Stan friends of the family then?
Apparently a friend of the family.
Okay.
In the show, the timing of this report is not mentioned, but I think it could have been in the early stages of the investigation, because we find out in the show that in 1999, Stan changed his statement to say that although he thinks it was Stephen, he was about 30 yards away, so he couldn't be sure, but I thought he spoke to him.
Spoke to him in the bus stop as well.
Apparently, yeah. And he would know him based on his gait. You know, he had the limp. Again, it's odd, and it makes me more inclined to believe that it never happened at all, or maybe Stan and Joyce were confused about the date. But I just find it really odd that he felt the day somebody goes missing, he's felt the need to go and tell his wife, "I've seen that person," but they don't know he's missing yet. Because if he was in Redcar, he's not missing.
Yeah.
Odd.
Odd, odd, odd.
The second sighting came from a young lady from Balmoral Terrace in Marsk. It was her belief that she'd seen Stephen and an older man. This is purely speculation. This is my own opinion. When this was mentioned in the show, the description of the second man sounded very much like Charles Clark. And Mark Williams Thomas, who's in the show, he came up here. I've got a picture with him somewhere.
Yeah.
He worked on the Madeleine McCann case. He does a face that's it's quite comical. I really urge you all to watch it. I'll give you all the details. He's the one that describes to Charles, he was an older man, he was this height, he had this kind of jacket, and he's looking at the guy like,
I'm describing you.
Yeah, that's what it was, in my opinion. And the following account, though, is one that I believe came in the immediate aftermath of the 2020 appeal. So this one was more recent. A witness came forward who would later find out was a woman who knew the family, although she's never been named. She was with her own family when she saw Stephen pass him. She said he was walking the opposite way along the high street in Marsk, heading towards Mars Square and possibly the Ship Inn pub that I mentioned earlier, or to his home. In her report, she noted that he was alone and it was still light, which means it must have been much earlier in the day, or between 3 and 3:44 p.m. Now, that's my estimation, because that's when the sun set that day and it darkens in the time beforehand. However, due to other information I still have to share, police have set the official time he went missing as between 3 and 4. But shouldn't the time he obviously went missing be right at the end of the last verified sighting? And it doesn't go, you don't have a bright day up until sunset and then it goes suddenly dark. It's dark, and she definitely said it was still light. If everything we've been told so far is true, this means that Stephen had to get back to Marsk that day. So why didn't Doris see him? Even if he had had a head start, surely she would have caught up to him fairly easily, because he had that limp. Also, on the subject of his limp, it was apparently fairly conspicuous, so even from far away, his mum of all people would have been able to see and know that that was him.
Yeah.
Or did he take a different route back? Is that a possibility? Could he have been collected by somebody in a car? It would take about 6 minutes to get from Saltburn to Marsk, but then why would he have been seen by the witness alone? So the woman in town, she saw him on his own. So could the person in the car have gone to the pub ahead of him while he got cash or something? Well, no, because his banks have never been touched. And wouldn't the person or people from the car have come forward by now? So I wrote that one out. Or could he have gotten into a car and been driven away by someone who meant him harm, and the witness in town actually didn't see him or saw him a lot earlier in the day? Could he have walked out of the toilets and headed to a bus stop, hopped on one of the many buses headed to Marsk that day and been there within 8 to 9 minutes? Or a train, like the bus, that's a possibility, and the journey on the train only takes about 4 minutes. But both to me are unlikely, as even if there was no other passengers on board either of those vehicles or at any of the stops where he got on and off, then there would have to be a driver on the bus,
A conductor on the train.
and a conductor on the train. And
What
you would
about
have
the
remembered
two
it.
men with the little girl?
Never heard of them again. They've never, we don't know if
Because
that's real.
also two men with a little girl is less common than a man and a woman with a little girl.
Exactly.
So,
Now-
maybe he was never in Saltburn.
Looking at this so far, I have a very strong feeling that the walk from Mass to Saltburn didn't happen. No witnesses at all, not even the two men with the girl put Stephen there, or Doris. But witnesses have him much closer to home, so something's not right. With the case now moving along quite well, with ongoing searches, online appeals and at least one new witness, DCI page came up with something new to get the word out about the renewed appeal, taking it from the World Wide Web to the streets using a digivan.
What's a digivan?
It's basically a van with a billboard on the side, and the billboard is electric, and it drives really slow so that people can read all the information on it.
One of those triangle things.
No, it was like the Asda or Tesco delivery vans.
Oh, okay.
It was like that. It would go really, really slow so people could take the details and get in touch. There's pictures of him. But going back to the two people who were arrested, they've now been bailed.
Was it a man and a woman?
Well, we'll just have to wait and see. To all intents and purposes, they had not been named by the police, but small towns talk, and while the names would probably come out within the community regardless, when officers and forensic specialists arrived to start a 5-day search of both the Clarks' home and garden, on the 18th of September, the jig was well and truly up. So although on bail, the couple were still under suspicion and investigation, so they were sent away from the home until the searches could be complete. Police working on the case theorised that Doris had killed Stephen, maybe even by accident, and Charles had buried him, and that the walk between the two small towns was a lie. A theory that a lot of people, including me, believed to be highly plausible. Now, I don't think their names made the national paper at the time, but everybody knew locally. You see your neighbour's garden getting dug up. You're gonna look. Many felt
They're
that
not looking for gold.
they ain't. Many felt that theirs was a happy home and there was no way that his parents would have harmed him in any way possible, that they did everything that they could for him. So could these feelings have led to friends of the Clarks sharing information to help the case? We know this happens, it's happened in other cases, and people doing it genuinely believe that they're doing the right thing because they think, oh, Doris and Charles wouldn't have done anything. If the police are thinking about them, they're not looking at who the real person is, so they think they're helping, and it doesn't. I'll come back to the Clarks in a bit, but I wanted to say that now.
Just don't lie.
Don't tell
Life
lies.
is so much more simple if you don't lie.
It'd be even more simple if we were like Pinocchio and when we lied our noses grew.
Or our asses.
No, because I've got a big ass, doesn't make me a liar.
No, but you wouldn't ever lie if you knew
I like
it was
having a
going
big
to grow
ass.
bigger.
Bonk donk. I wanted to say about the Clarks just now, but we're now jumping to the 20th of October 2020. So things were going on in September. We're now later into October, and the charity Crime Stoppers were publicly announcing that they were offering £10,000 reward for tips leading to an arrest in Stephen's case. Now, us true crimers know that offering a reward can be a double-edged sword because, yeah, it can bring in information that helps in a case, but it also brings out a lot of people who just want to get the money, which means that the tip lines go crazy and it's up to investigators to sift through all the information, because they have to, and establish what's legitimate and what's just rubbish from chancers.
Yeah.
So all of this takes a lot of time and can stall a case, which if done too soon can severely hinder it. And I think this was done at this stage though because the investigation was flagging and they needed it, so I thought it was worth a shot. My feelings about the investigation losing steam at this point were compounded by DCI Page when a few weeks later, on November the 12th, 2020, he allowed for some information to be shared with the press, including a redacted copy of the handwritten letter I mentioned earlier and its envelope. Now, this was maybe in another bid to tease out the unknown letter writer, although he did acknowledge that given that the years between it being written and when they were sharing it, which was 21 years, maybe the person hadn't come forward because they were no longer alive. So I'm going to tell you about this envelope, but first I'm just going to send it over to Victoria so she can have a look as well. So this is the envelope and I'm just going to talk you through it, but just so you can see it at the same time. So it's a brown envelope, it's handwritten to Stephen Clark Incident Room, but interestingly, Stephen's name's spelled incorrectly. He's not a PH, he's a EV. You see that in the first line? It's sent to Guysborough Police Station, I hope it's Guysborough, Cleveland. There was no postcode or return details included, but on the front there's a first class stamp and the postmark showed that it was posted on the 24th of September 99 in Teeside. And it kind of looks like a clue from one of the old detective shows, doesn't it? Like Marple or Taggart. So most of this information I've already told you, but bear with me. There are two things I find interesting that I think point to why police in 99 might not have taken it seriously, although that might not be fair of me. When I share what was included in the letter, I'm sure you'll agree that they may not have felt they had enough. Anyway, so you've got the misspelling of Stephen's name. That's a red flag to me.
That seems intentional.
Yeah, to me it says that either the writer wasn't somebody close to him or his family, or that they did it on purpose. But they couldn't have been close to the family, because back then you had Christmas and birthday cards and everything going out. You would know how to spell your friend's kid's name. Maybe it was possible they were on the outskirts of his life and heard something from someone that they might have known what happened to him and they couldn't keep it to themselves anymore. Or maybe they just learned in 99 what had happened, or maybe they saw what happened on the day. There's so much. Or am I wrong and the alternate spelling wasn't accidental at all? So it could be an accident, could be done on purpose. It's bizarre.
They paid for a first class stamp.
Yeah, but it was cheap back then.
That's true.
The second part that I find interesting is the postmark, because Teeside's not part of Cleveland County, but it's not that far, and it incorporates Middlesbrough and Redcar. So was it someone local who chose to pose it from further afield to keep their identity secret? Or was it a double bluff? What do you think?
I think that's not the kind of envelope you have in your house.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an office envelope.
Yep.
Who had stationery? Somebody that worked for the police?
Maybe.
They might have had stationery. Who also writes in capitals? Somebody that works for the police?
I write in capitals.
People that work for police and prisons and things like that are taught to write in capital letters.
We were taught that at school though as well.
I want to know what's in the letter.
You're not going to like this. Right, I'm sending the letter over to you now, and then I'm just going to read out what it is.
If you send me a dick pic, I'm going to poke you in the eye.
Don't tell people I've got a dick. Right, you won't. I'm going to put these up on the socials, but you won't really need the letter up on the socials. So all that you've got is reference the disappearance of Stephen Clark, with Stephen spelt wrong again.
Everything's redacted.
Yep.
You're such a bellend.
But look, I'm not. I'm giving you what people had at the time. Below that, one line said, "Could the police?" And the rest of the line was blanked out. Next row said Stephen Clark again, with a PH. The rest of the page was blanked out until the final line that said, "I hope this may be of assistance." So basically, reference the disappearance of Stephen Clark. Could the police?
Could the
Stephen
police?
Clark.
Da 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 da. Stephen Clark. Da 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 da. Something this may be of assistance.
I hope this may be of assistance. Now, DCI Page described the letter as being precise in nature, saying that it alluded to the writer knowing that Stephen was no longer alive and they knew who killed him. He also gave information which probably would have been part of the proof of life exercise and didn't come from the letter. Speaking about who Stephen was as a person, he made it public that when he vanished it was without his glasses, his wallet and the watch he liked to wear. Just under a month later, the Mirror newspaper published an article with the headline, "I sent police mystery letter about killer of a man who disappeared 28 years ago," by news reporter Jeremy Armstrong, with the Mirror claiming they had tracked the person down. The article's got no new information in it at all, although DCI Page did thank them for finding the person. The Cleveland police had also shared this information and appealed to people who knew Stephen to come forward and speak to them, believing that their knowledge may unlock something that had been missed. Now, 28 years after Stephen was last seen, Cleveland police released video footage which had shown him in the Redcar branch of Rathbone, which had been filmed as part of a training series, and another clip where his voice was clearly heard too. These were for TV appeals to again trigger people's memories and to make Stephen more real, more than just a missing man. These are methods often used to help in cases, and they work well because, as a species, humans react well to having their emotions triggered. Making a stranger seem more real makes people think things like, "Oh, my son's like that," or to realise that any family could be in this situation, and it encourages us to help if we can. Following on from this footage being shown, on the 12th of April 2021, which is not that long ago, Cleveland police had tasked officers and forensic teams to do a search in the undergrowth of an area adjacent to a place called Saltburn Bank in Saltburn. And I've looked this up because I've never been, and I wanted to get an idea of where the search was being held. And from climefinder.com, never thought I'd find myself on that website, I have found out the Saltburn Bank is a windy road, and it's about a 0.4, so less than half a kilometre climb. It ends 30 metres higher than it starts, and the gradient is 8.3%.
So sorry, is that accessible by car?
I'm just about to get there.
All right.
But 8.3% in gem speak means it's a toughie, and I wouldn't attempt it. Yeah, you can go up by car. So it sort of starts at the bottom, obviously. Unless we started at the top. And it's a windy road. It sort of reminds me of, I'll put pictures up anyway, but in Buckpool, there's the bit, you can go from like Buckpool bottom all the way up to Bucky. It's like that. There's like a spa bit at the top. If I was a climber, I would look at it and think, yeah, it just looks like, I don't know how to explain it. To me, climbers are people that are out in the hills and going up rock faces and things, and this just looks like the side of a road.
A slope.
But not a slope. A windy, horrible... I'll try and explain it better when I put the post up. Anyway, from that search, we've not heard anything.
Oh.
So that was 2021. And I still have information to share with you from the documentary, although it covers a lot of what I've already talked about today. I'm going to give some of my own thoughts on the behaviours. That's basically what I'm doing. That I noticed throughout my viewing, but don't take my word as gold. Go and watch it yourself. And let me know.
I'm just thinking about the letter.
I thought you were going to say he needed a pee. Okay, what are you thinking about the letter?
I don't think it was his parents that sent it.
No, I don't think it was his parents.
Initially I thought, it could have been them, like, going, oh, it's not me, I'm going to spell his name wrong.
Well, it must have named one of them for them to be arrested.
But could it have been Stan? Was it Stan, the guy in the bus stop?
Maybe. And there's
Did he feel guilty and go, or was it Stan's wife, Joyce? Because she might have gone, oh, you didn't tell a lie. You told a lie.
I do know more about this. I can't remember if I put it further on. I've put it further on because it came out in the documentary, but I do know more about this, but I don't know who I can't tell if it's one of those people or not. Okay. Except that they were female.
The writing on the letter looks female.
Is it because it's all got little dresses on? Right. The title of the documentary was Accused of Murdering Our Son, the story of Stephen Clark, though in my opinion it was more about Doris and Charles than Stephen. It was following their bail in 2020 when, still under investigation, Doris and Charles were approached by ITV and former police detective Mark Williams-Thomas about taking part in a documentary about their son's case. ITV explained to the couple that the documentary would follow current 2020 investigation, with Williams-Thomas looking into leads and being the face of it. Doris was now 81 and Charles was 78, and they agreed to do it, and recording began in September 2020 and the show aired for the first time on Thursday the 22nd of April 2021. It opened with footage of Stephen as the young blonde-haired child I mentioned earlier. Looking cute as a button, he had been dressed for the day in a blue jumper under red dungarees and was playing in the garden. I think it was filmed in the period before his accident, though, as he was moving well and there was no signs of a limp and both arms were swinging about. From this scene of delight and happiness, we were soon introduced to Doris and Charles, sharing the moment they were arrested for their boy's murder after, unbeknownst to them, police had obtained a warrant on the 8th of September. Doris shared that after hearing knocking at the door of their home, she opened up to find police officers waiting on the doorstep, and that was 6 days after the warrant came in. Inviting them in, she had no idea what they were there for, and when asked about Charles, she explained that he was currently in the shower. They asked her to fetch him straight away as they wished to speak to them both. Bemused, she did just that before returning to the officers. When Charles joined them, police read them their rights as they placed them both under arrest. Continuing the story, Doris told Michael Thomas that she had laughed out loud, thinking it was a joke, and Charles agreed, saying he remembers calling officers muppets and telling them to go away and behave yourself. Bearing in mind that both the Clarks were ex-coppers, I find this really uncomfortable to watch. Unless fake arrests were common in their day, why would you think that?
Why would you...
And I felt uncomfortable all the way through watching this. I felt like everything they did was a performance, and basically it was the Doris and Charles show. You might not feel the same, but that's...
They sound like they think that they're more clever than anyone.
100%. 100%, I agree with you. I can't imagine ever laughing when being arrested, let alone for the murder of a family member. Now, I gave you an example earlier of the weird behaviour when Doris referred to her account as my story. Also, with regards to her story, police have said that over time her account has changed. We don't know how, but her account has changed. Then, sitting around a table with Thomas, they showed him clippings of headlines from back in 1992. And my eagle eye spotted one that said, "Vanished from busy beach." Now, I rewound to double check that because I was under the impression that the beach was empty that day. Otherwise, why did nobody see Doris or Stephen? Now, I couldn't find the actual article, but if anybody can find it, please send it to me. It was literally it was in amongst a load of stuff that she had. I couldn't even see what newspaper it was, I don't think. Now, for there to be an arrest, police must have had fairly decent, reasonable grounds to believe that the Clarks had done something.
To make an arrest, yeah.
100%,
absolutely.
which we've already covered. But during the documentary, the investigator looked at a scenario that Charles had brought up when talking about going out to search for his son. He'd shared being scared that his son might have fallen from the cliffs between Marske and Saltburn, landing in the sea below, drowning, perhaps being dragged out to sea. So Mark Williams Thomas took his own walk up the cliff path to meet with a former Coast Guard and local called Paul Waugh. Asked if he felt this was possible, Waugh said no. He could have fallen, yes, but he would have been found. He would have been pulled straight back from, it must be to do with tides and all that. Back with the Clarks, talk turned to potential sightings of Stephen, and they told Thomas that they'd been told by the Missing Persons charity that they had received between 50 and 100 tips between the 30th of December 1992 through January 1993. I just feel like he's saying that thinking nobody will check.
Yeah.
Then, the local girl from the Times report was discussed with Charles and Thomas. So, you know the girl who said she saw him from Balmoral Terrace?
Yeah.
They talked about that. They stood just outside of our block of flats and spoke about that. And then Joyce Camish was interviewed at the home she had shared with her late husband. So this makes me think that those reports might have been made in 92, 93 because they kind of banded them all together. But why has nothing came of any of that then?
I mean, the one from Joyce particularly doesn't seem like... That must have happened in the early investigation.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't... It wouldn't make sense for it to happen later.
But why is it taking until 2020 for it to come out properly? I don't think the police believe them.
How long were they actively working on the case in the initial...
We don't know.
I really want to know. We've looked at missing people before.
Mm-hmm.
I know personally the mother of a missing person, and they live and breathe it every single
The
day.
family
What were Charles and Doris actually doing?
I'm going to give you something from this documentary soon that's going to blow your mind about their attitude towards all this.
Because it doesn't seem like they've been spending their entire life searching.
It's nuts.
You have to look at the behaviour.
You do. Then there was obviously the account of the woman who came forward in 2020 saying she saw Stephen on Marske High Street, and the ex-detective asked the Clarks what they thought about Stephen being seen so close to home. And all the while he was talking about it and talking about the sighting, Doris is nodding along, agreeing that it was possible that he was there, and Charles was saying he thought it was a viable report. And then Doris just stops. It's weird. Sort of her face changes and she speaks again, and she changes her mind about what she's just said and says, quote, "I don't even know why he'd be doing that." It's bizarre. You have to watch it. It's on ITV. You can get it on ITV. Her face just totally changes, and it's like, you know, when somebody's got dementia and sometimes they're lucid and sometimes they're not, and people talk about their face changing when they're losing lucidity. It's like that. But I don't think that's what it is. So later on, Charles was asked about the anonymous letter and claimed to have not been told about it, and he acted like he had no knowledge of what it was or who could have written it. However, this was disputed when police said that both of the Clarks had seen it when it was brought into their home.
Right.
He acts like, oh, I don't know, unless I've misinterpreted that, but that's how it came across to me.
It sounds to me like you're describing them overthinking lies. And yeah.
Oh no, what was I meant to say here?
Yeah.
When asked who they thought was named in the letter, because we know that somebody said one of them was the killer, both said they didn't want to know.
What?
They didn't want to know who was named. They don't want to know who killed their son.
Because they already know.
Is that because they didn't want the documentary saying, Doris, it was you who was named, and she would have to stand up for herself? Or... Charles also says repeatedly in the episode that he believes Stephen will come home one way or another, which is quite ominous, while Doris maintains she has never even thought about where he could have gone or what had happened.
What?
Explain that to me.
She doesn't give two shits.
She doesn't. I've never thought about it.
What a lovely motherly attitude.
I know, every day that would be... You'd be constantly hoping.
We've seen it. It eats people alive.
It does. It does. And on one hand, they'll have like a scenario of hope, like maybe he did just take himself off, maybe he wanted a new life or something like that, or I'm like worried that he's in the bottom of a bog, like with Sean.
Yeah.
None of it makes sense. It's a horrible case.
It's a horrible case, and these people,
they're horrid people, aren't they?
They sound it.
Right, we're near the end.
And they've gone on with their lives, and it's...
Well, just wait, because it gets worse. So earlier in the episode, I shared that the Mirror newspaper had managed to find the letter writer, but no further information was given out. Well, in the episode, we hear that the woman who wrote the letter was not known to the Clarks and she didn't have any evidence to back up her claims, but she assured the police that what she had written was done in, quote, good faith. So did she hear something but she couldn't get somebody else to support what she was saying? Or that's my thoughts, that the other people wouldn't come forward. Now, for me, the most upsetting, confusing and demeaning part of the documentary came in February the 15th, 2021. When Stephen's parents received a phone call from the police saying that they'll be arriving the following day to talk to them. When they hang up, Charles then calls Mark and leaves a message asking if he wants to come the next day to hear what the police have said. This makes my blood boil. The next day, the couple meet Mark up near the cliffs and tell him that they've been released from bail and are no longer under investigation. Obviously, they're happy about this. They had previously told him the investigation was the worst time of their life. But up on the hill with him that day, they threw their arms up in the air shouting that they were finally free. We're finally free! They looked giddy from excitement, and Doris also said she was happy that there would be... Now, are you ready? She was happy there would be no more investigations into this case. Now, there's so much wrong with this. Firstly, I would have thought Stephen going missing was the worst time in their lives.
Or even his accident as a little boy, being run over.
Yeah.
Being in a coma for a week.
Yep. A month. None of it.
They're evil.
Also, during the show, I never heard either of them saying anything like, finally now they can concentrate on finding Stephen and who killed him. Nothing like that. And how can they feel free when there's nothing resolved at all? They still don't know where he is. They don't know if he's alive. They don't know if he's dead. They don't know if he's been murdered, had an accident. They have no idea what happened to him. They're no further on than when he disappeared.
They're literally celebrating the fact that they've been let off.
Not just that. She also says she's happy about this case being closed. This case.
Yeah. She doesn't care about a resolution because they already know what happened.
Yep.
And
this is our personal opinions.
They're just happy that they got away with it.
Yeah. That's what it sounds like to me. How could you be like that about your child?
How can you live with yourselves?
You need to watch it. I get really bad vibes from both of them. The husband comes across as smug and, like you said, knows better, and she just comes across as nasty. Now, I've given you a lot of information today. I encourage you to look at the references. I encourage you to go and watch the documentary. But if you do have any information, I'm going to put a link up, or you can call Crime Stoppers for free on 0800 555 111. Their lines are open 24/7 and you can be anonymous. But
you do hear of some people resenting their children when they have extra needs and things like that. You do hear of that sometimes. And it's sad. It's really sad. And you are expected to love your children unconditionally. And sometimes it's not quite as black and white as you think it's going to be when you become a parent. But
definitely not. It's not easy.
To do that and to have that attitude and it's beyond belief. I'm so angry at them.
Me too. So, just to end things on a slightly lighter note, remember I told you that to remind me to go back? Right. So, I wanted to go and see what the website was all about, and it was started by a woman, not the website, but the school, the Muriel Brand School was started by Muriel Brand.
This is the one in South Africa.
Yeah, South Africa. I'm going to read out what it said on the website about Muriel Brand for you, okay?
Okay.
I got in touch with the website about this.
Okay.
Mrs Muriel Brand was one of a small number of extraordinary women involved in the cause of children with cerebral palsy who had South African special schools named after them. After initially working to support the Forest Town School for more than 15 years, she started fundraising for the establishment of a new school on the east of Witwatersrand. I can't say that.
Witwatersrand.
The Muriel Brand School was eventually named after her. She and her husband, Mr. Charles Brand, were intimately involved in the affairs of the school from the establishment of the school's sponsoring body in 1964 up to their deaths in 2003. I'm starting laughing already because it's coming. At the ages of 94 and 95 respectively.
She's going to lose it.
Capicola ribeye, swine shank pastrami spare ribs, pork chop sirloin, flank shank, corned beef ham shoulder. Just said that at the bottom.
Did somebody put their shopping list on by accident?
Well, it wasn't even on there once. It was on two separate bits. It was on there and at the bottom of her bio. Just to finish, the last sentence of Mrs Muriel Brand 1908 to 2003's bio on the page was, pork chop, sirloin flank shank, corned beef ham. Oh no, wait, I've missed a bit. Sorry, it started with capicola, ribeye swine, shank, pastrami, spare ribs, full stop. Pork chop, sirloin, flank shank, corned beef ham shoulder.
These are her nicknames, or her children, maybe.
Survived by. Oh.
What? So you got in touch with the website?
I did. I got in touch and I said,
There might be an error.
hi there. I came across your page while researching the disappearance of Stephen Clark in 1992. He was a past pupil at your school. Oops. I am messaging as I noticed something on your information about Muriel Brand. And then I shared it. And then they put, thank you so much. We'll definitely follow up on that glitch. They put in quote marks. It killed me. I might call the episode that. It's a bit long, isn't it?
Ham shank, pastrami, knickers, or whatever it was. Oh.
Knickers. Capicola, ribeye, swine shank, pastrami, spare ribs, pork chop, sirloin, flank, shank, corned beef, ham, shoulder.
That is just... Wow. Not everything you read on the internet is factual.
I'm going to keep coughing if we do this.
Sorry.
So, yeah, a horrible, horrible case that I know some of you will know about, and we're not making light of it, but just to end on a bit of a better note.
Yeah, you know, in the actual news, they used to do a good news story, didn't they? So
yeah, they did.
You know,
that's what we're doing.
That's all we're doing. It's okay.
So, thank you for being here. Next time it'll be Victoria. Our Victoria, not the sister Victoria.
No, that would be weird.
So we'll just say if you know anything.
I'm not going to say anything about my case, actually.
I wasn't
changed my
asking you
mind.
to.
I was going to, and then I thought, no, sod ya.
I don't want
It'll
to
be
know.
a surprise, Sydney.
If people are still with us at an hour and 36
Yeah,
of
sorry.
recording. Wait, I will cut it a little bit. Especially all the coughing.
I was going to say, you need a, what's it, Cavonia.
A capicola. Swine shank. Right. Thank you very much for being here. It's great to be back.
Once again, Happy New Year. We hope you're enjoying it. Welcome to Season 2.
Bye-bye.
More to come.
Bye.
Keep on trucking.